is saving the day, we really need to make sure we're not letting them take control of the narrative on this and take advantage of the crisis. And so I think that's a really great opportunity for us to counter their lies and to hold them accountable when they do spread this misinformation.
Mm-hmm. That's
And that's
excellent.
that.
Thank you, Morgan. You've been so awesome to kick us off today, and love having you. So Morgan went ahead and answered the first question, which of course, what are your followers saying about this whole incident, about COVID-19, the China virus, and what are your thoughts on that? And so go ahead and introduce yourselves, prior to sharing that, and we'll just keep going here.
So hi, I'm Alex Clark. I am the host of Poplitics with Turning Point USA on Instagram. It's a daily show that covers pop culture through a conservative perspective. My followers, I think the number one question I'm getting asked is, when are we going to be back to normal? When is the economy going to get back up and running? And obviously, I don't have the answer to that. But that is, I think, their number one concern. I never hear any of my friends asking me or concerned about actually getting sick. It's all about what's going to happen financially. Mm-hmm. So that has been really interesting just to kind of see everybody's thoughts on that. I have a feeling, if I was going to say what I think, I feel like we do need to be getting back up and running, getting America back up as soon as possible. I mean, my thoughts would be to just quarantine older people that are at risk with pre-existing conditions, and letting us kind of do our thing. And what I've heard is, and if any of you know differently, then correct me if I'm wrong, but what I've heard is if you get it once and you get through it, then you've already had it. So I've already pretty much accepted that eventually I'm probably going to get it. And I'm just waiting for that to happen. I feel like most of us probably will.
Sure. No, that's interesting. Thank you for that, Alex. Isabelle?
Hello, everyone. So sorry about the technical difficulties there. I've been using Zoom every day because I'm still in school like most of you, and I cannot tell you every single day how many technical difficulties and snafus we have. So that's just part of life right now and something we'll have to get used to. If you're not familiar with who I am, my name is Isabelle Brown, and I'm a Turning Point USA contributor and the host of my own independently produced video series called On the Front Lines, which exposes what conservative college students go through on this in real time with my professors who are experts in the field and some of the leading global health experts of the world. Knowing what we're doing now is incredibly different from how the world has responded to disease outbreaks in the past. So I've been very pleased to have that opportunity and have loved interacting with my followers about that. And I would say, sort of in addition to that, because I interact with so many current college students, most of my questions have been about, what's my college campus doing? Why am I not getting a refund for this? Why am I being asked to move out of my dorm in just 24 or 48 hours? And so I think we're sort of experiencing a new normal in higher education this semester, but I've been incredibly proud of watching all of my followers go through that with grace and with.
He said, hey, I've heard you've got so much wisdom and insight, and that you might be able to really help me with next steps with how we're handling this on a national level. What do you recommend that I do or that I add to the strategy?
They want to hear from the president, and people are looking for guidance at this time. So I just think the more that he can reassure people and the more involved that he can be, the better. I know that actor Dennis Quaid said recently in an interview that he's really proud of how the president has been so involved. And I think that that's the best thing right now. And, there has been criticisms well, why wasn't he involved in this sooner? China, but one thing I think with the president's strategy is that he is someone that likes to give hope. So I think, in the earlier months, like in the beginning of February, when he was like, well, I think we've got it under control, that he keeps on giving hope to the American people. He wasn't about to get out there and just be like, yeah, it's all doom and gloom. It didn't look like it was going to be that bad because China was hiding information from us. So I think he's been doing as good of a job as we could hope from anybody, and especially going forward. The fact that he's already proven that he's been able to do that once, let's give him the opportunity to do it again.
Absolutely. I think that's excellent. Morgan, how about you?
So I'll try and touch on other things because I completely agree with what Alex said, and so I don't want to just keep reiterating. But I was thinking of something really important that's going to be when we relaunch the economy, when we start getting back out into society. I think a lot of it's going to come down to the messaging and the confidence. First of all, I agree, Alex, with just the transparency. Keep putting information out there. I don't know about you guys. I'm in my house. I don't know much. I see a bunch of crap on social media. I just want to know the facts, and whether people take good things out of that or bad things, I just, the more we know. But when we go to relaunch the economy, I think it's going to really depend how successful it is on the messaging of the Trump administration, on the messaging of the states of, okay, it's time to get back out there. You can get back out there. Let's all get back out there and just start enjoying our lives again and participating in the economy. I think that's really going to impact it. Because if it's just a slow drizzle and people are still a little scared and they're not really going out there and putting their money back out there into their communities, I think that could have a longer term impact that we don't want to see. And so I think that's something I would really suggest to the Trump administration.
For sure. I love all of that. I agree with, everything that has been said. I think from my perspective, when it comes to the science policy side of things, what I've been most impressed by with the Trump administration and how the coronavirus pandemic has been handled has been bringing so many scientific experts into the room. I'm very fortunate to be in a program that really blends the science and policy side of things, but we say every day how there's not enough policy people in science and there's definitely not enough scientists in policy. And so it can be really difficult to make sure that we're making policy based on how we prevent more disease outbreak in the future, based on the science and based on the reality of what this virus looks like. So I'm very, very proud of the president for working so closely with Dr. Fauci and other administrative officials throughout the executive branch and in Congress as well to make sure that we're basing our policy on sound science. I think moving forward, I would agree the strongest, most important thing the administration could be focusing on for the next few weeks is messaging and just reassuring the American people. Viruses are scary, and things that we can't see on an actual macroscopic level are very, very scary to people. And so I think the fear factor has been a lot more prevalent in our nation than the actual virus itself when it comes to people mass buying things and panic buying things, not wanting to go out into public, and just sort of that escalation of fear that we've been seeing in our society in the last few weeks. The other thing that I think is incredibly important to maintain in the next few weeks as we sort of flatten the curve and see the decline in new cases in our country. But what I love about how this president has handled this crisis has been that he's letting individual cities, individual counties and states to make those decisions based on what's best for their reality at the moment. So I would encourage him to keep doing that.
I think those are great thoughts. I'm going to go ahead and weigh in on this one too, if I can do both.
Yeah.
Think and click at the same time and remove these terrible people that are doing terrible things.
I can't believe they have nothing better to do.
I know. I had to lock the meeting because I thought I've just got to stop the flow. So I apologize for anyone that can't jump in now after that. And, if we do this again, we will definitely have a better setup. But anyway, yeah, I think I'll just go straight to the tactical. And a few of you mentioned some of these things. But, it's interesting. First and foremost, I want to say I have confidence in this president. And I do believe that he will lead us back to a strong economy and honor the freedom and the liberty that we deserve as Americans based on the Constitution, which obviously he took an oath to uphold. And I have confidence in him for that and his administration. I think that tactically speaking, I would like to see us move toward a mitigation strategy and away from a suppression strategy, even though they've started using the word mitigation. We really are in a suppression strategy technically. And again, I'm kind of basing this on a lot of things I've read. The primary source is the study out of London at the Imperial College, which a lot of the decisions were made based on that in the beginning. And that informed WHO and CDC and a lot of their models and that type of thing. So tactically speaking, that would be moving toward mitigation, which, as some of you have mentioned, is opening things back up. The healthy should be able to go about their business. If you've tested positive, you should quarantine yourself. If you are displaying symptoms, you should stay home if you're sick. And if one of your household members are either sick or have tested positive, you should quarantine yourself for a period of time as well in that situation. Other than that, people should be free to go about their business and work. Companies should stay open. Stores should stay open. We've seen this, as I indicated in my last vlog or 2 vlogs ago. Businesses are smart. Their self-interest is the interest of their customers. So if their customers are going to be concerned coming into their store, they're going to create a place where those customers feel comfortable, because that's how they'll get them in the door. So they're making the social distancing a part of being in the store, et cetera. And I think companies can do that. we can all, as business owners, and various companies can make those decisions, and they would, because like I said, it's in their own self-interest. Quarantining the healthy is not even a pattern that's been used in the past.
Right.
And we actually stand to see from that study, from that Imperial College study, a real bump, a real surge once we kind of let people out. And so we've got to go through the process of getting that herd immunity built up. And the only way we're going to do that is be open for business and let people go out and about. I have been doing that. I've been going to stores. Now I use my soap and I do all my things and I honor social distancing. I'm not being made to wear a mask, and I don't, because I want to kind of be exposed, frankly, and build up some immunity to it. But that's just me. I'm not saying everyone should view it the way I do personally. But anyway, those are some of my thoughts for the president if he asked. And I'm hoping and trusting that he has advisors around him, and they're all having that conversation. And our economy has just taken such a hit. And
Yeah.
it's devastating. We have not yet seen the impact of the hit that our economy has taken. So we're all kind of in a bubble right now. But yeah, we're yet to see it.
I really appreciate and like how we've been letting the individual states decide what's best for them, because what looks the best for certain states is not going to look the best for others, which is what I like about not having just like a national mandate. Trump is leaving it up to the individual governors. And that's something else, is that you need to be looking at your governor and how they're handling this, not placing all blame, good or bad, or responsibility on the president.
Yes.
This is really about your governor, and something to keep in mind. If you do not like how your state has been handling things during this crisis, you need to be thinking about your governor. So
yes.
That's a big thing. And what I'm really nervous about is us deciding, or the president wanting to be like, all right, let's start getting America back ready to open for business. And then a lot of pushback from the left being like, no, absolutely, we can't do that. What I'm nervous about is they know that the quicker that we get back into normal life, the better for Trump, because people are going to attribute that to Trump. So they're going to be like, oh, like he handled this crisis great. Like now, I'm able to start making money again and all those different things. And they're going to say, okay, now I want to vote for him for sure in November. And then if people have to keep quarantining like this throughout the summer into early fall, which now people are starting to question if that's what's going to be happening, because
Exactly.
Broadway said today that they're not opening now until June. They pushed their date back again, and I think we're
Right.
going to keep seeing dates push back.
Yeah.
So if people have to live like this till fall, I think the Democrats want that, so they can be like, oh, you don't want this anymore? Like, we need to vote for Biden because he might give us, a different outcome. And I think that they're kind of crossing their fingers on that.
Yes. Before we move on to just, the quarantine life and recommendations you guys have during quarantine time, any more comments on that? Because I really appreciated your add on there, Alex.
I do have just one thing to say that I've been reflecting on for the last few weeks, and that's been analyzed. We were an evil country who's trying to expose all of our people to a deadly virus, and that's just a consequence of what capitalism and what freedom looks like. And while I disagree with the tone of the messaging, in a way that is true. That is a consequence of a free society. We're not going to adopt the same tactics that China adopted when the peak of this virus was just hitting, where people were literally forbidden to leave their homes because the military would be standing outside. Entire cities were quarantined. No one could get in or out. It's a completely dystopian reality, and that's just not the way that things are done in the United States. We value freedom, and we know that freedom and liberty has a cost associated with that. And I would much rather live in a nation that understands there will be people who are exposed to this virus, for better or for worse. But that's just the reality of freedom, and why we have to keep preserving that into the next generation.
Yes, so true. Morgan, do you have any other thoughts you want to share?
I would just, going off of Alex's point, I mean, I'm from upstate New York. We really, really don't like Andrew Cuomo up here. It's like a thing. There's this hashtag called FUAC, if you know what I mean. It's kind of implied. And so it's very passionate people against Andrew Cuomo. And I will say it's nice, because this has really shown the difference between people who are, they get a little political, who's not political sometimes, who doesn't get into political debates. But there's a difference between people like Bill de Blasio, who are saying we need to nationalize industries. He goes to the gym after he puts a shutdown on the city and says, oh, but I have to stay in shape, so I need to go to the gym. You can't go to the public gym, but I can go to the gym, because I'm a leader. There's a difference between people like him and Andrew Cuomo, who he's admittedly said, I've enjoyed working with President Trump. He's been a great leader to us, and we enjoy working with him to get real results. He's even said some spicy stuff about like, this is showing that politics is more than just Twitter followers and, you know, hot takes that you can own people on Twitter with. And I hope young people understand that now, that politics is more about who will lead during times like this and less about how many Twitter followers you have. And I thought that was a really interesting point. And I give him credit. I appreciate seeing Republicans and Democrats and seeing which ones are willing to put politics aside in order to get results. And I'm not saying Cuomo's perfect, but I do appreciate it. And I think that's strong coming from someone like me.
That's really good. My last comment, and then let's go right into our thoughts on how people can handle life in quarantine and staying safe at home, and what are they doing to make the most of their time, and what do you recommend they do? Because we have about 5 more minutes. And my last comment is that we just need to get into a situation where we're back to business and out of, you know, this suppression mentality, as we've already said before. It's just so critical. And I also think we need to really reevaluate emergency powers. I think we've all been shocked at the sweeping nature of not only the president's emergency powers, but the emergency powers of governors. So I'm really hoping some of our judicial, you know, groups, we could name several organizations here right now, are taking a look at that and challenging that in the courts, because it's just, I think it's overreach personally. Okay, so let's go into some of our suggestions. What are your suggestions, Alex, for people to spend their time well? Of course, we all want to have a glass of wine and watch our shows and eat snacks, and I think that's a great part of it, but, you know, obviously we can't do that 24/7. So what are some good recommendations?
Well, I mean, my life looks a little bit different because I have still been going to work every day. So I haven't had the full quarantine experience like other people have. But I mean, one thing I really liked is my friend Allie Stuckey, who a lot of people like her podcast Relatable. She started doing daily scripture memorizing, definitely reading. This is such a good time to get into some good books. I just finished Nikki Haley's book the other day, and I'm starting another one. So I think a lot of reading, a lot of those things that we always say, we don't have time to do this. Acquiring new skills, crafting, you know, all of those, deep cleaning your house, wipe your baseboards down, you know, things like that we always have excuses for. This is your moment to do all of that. Like, that doesn't sound very fun, but, and also doing things like this, Zoom, house party apps, things like that. There's ways to still hang out with your friends, even though you're not like right in front of each other in real life.
I love it.
All right, for me, so I have such a weird thing, and I was kind of telling everybody my little story of how I started doing this full time over the last year. I literally was kind of homeless. I moved out of my apartment in Boston in September, and I just went from event to event across the country, flying to different places, and I put all my stuff in a storage unit, and I would go from event to event and go to all these cool cities. That's all fun and games until a pandemic hits and travel is banned. Wow. I had to literally be like, hey, Mom and Dad, mind if I hang out with you indefinitely? So I am here in upstate New York with my parents, and we're hanging out. My dad's in the military. He is gone doing that kind of stuff now because of the COVID relief response. My mom is a physical therapist, got laid off. We have been hanging out nonstop. We have wine and popcorn every night. We watch spring baking championship. We bring the dogs on 2 or 3 walks a day because we get bored, and we're just hanging out and enjoying it. And so this is a time where when else would you get this kind of time with your family, or when else would you get this time to better yourself? That's how we're viewing it. I have so many clips of raw footage for YAAS. I spend an hour a day just putting them in folders now. I'm doing all the stuff that I wish that I could do when I'm on the road. So everybody's impacted differently, and I'm just trying to be there for my friends and be there in ways where I'm not struggling like my small business is going out of business in 2 weeks if we don't get any support soon. And so I'm trying to reach out to everybody and say, hey, I'm here to help in any way that I possibly can. If I can help virtually, just let me know. And so I think that's just, it's important to keep in touch with your friends and just offer up the help if there is a way to be there for them.
That's awesome. That's great.
Like you, Morgan, I had a bunch of trips planned for the next few months and weeks, and was going to go from school to school to school for speaking events and engagements and conferences. It was going to be really busy, and all of a sudden I found myself sort of with nothing to do because I had so much time on my hands. So originally I had left Washington, D.C. for my spring break to work in the Turning Point USA office the first full week of March. and I decided not to go back and changed my flight to whenever I decided to book it again. But after about being in Arizona for a week, found out that a loved one was in the hospital in Colorado. So packed up the car, drove 12 hours to Colorado, practiced social distancing at all the gas stations, don't worry, but have been here for the last few weeks and actually have really been loving the time with family and some of the downtime that Morgan was talking about. Love being outside. The weather has been beautiful, and that's really the best advice that I can give to people is get up, get dressed, because you're just mentally going to be in such a better place if you act like you're getting ready for the day instead of staying in your PJs all day, although that is okay on the weekends.
Right.
And then after that, get outside, get some sunshine. I think when I noticed the biggest difference in my own mental health and just sort of feeling crummy for being stuck inside all day has been when I go outside. I play outside for a few hours with my siblings or the dogs or anything like that. So that's my best advice to people.
I love it. I mean, I just agree with all of you. Getting outside, change of scenery, not only just exercise, but just change of scenery, right?
You can go for a drive.
Places. Go for a drive, just see
Yes.
different things. And then, like you guys all talked about, being in touch with family and friends. It is so important. I mean, we've had Zoom meetings with our families. I'm sure you guys have too, with friends. FaceTiming family members we think we don't have time to talk to, in our normal daily life very often. And staying connected is so good for your mental health. And then also, everyone mentioned projects, but find a project. If you feel like you don't have one, I feel like being productive and being creative. Some people might say, well, I'm not creative, I'm not crafty. But if you can produce something, whatever it is that fits your personality, you will feel better about yourself. And it's so important. I mean, we're in the image of a creator. And if we're not creating and adding value somehow, that I think can really hurt people's mental well-being. So yeah, stay productive. But this has been such a great time, you guys. I have so loved being with you all.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
This was so fun. I really, really loved just getting to see you guys again. First of all, hello to everyone, because I miss seeing you at conferences and everything. But I also just love the concept of being together apart. And I think we've done a really great job as a nation of doing that in the last few weeks.
I have too. And thanks again to everyone that joined us today. And my apologies for those who couldn't, even though they can't hear me. And if we do this again, I'll try to improve on the tech part of it. But thanks for joining us.
Awesome.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye. Stay healthy.